Two women got hold of me and dragged me into the room. One of them held my head and crushed her knees down onto my shoulders with all her force to stop me from moving. My howls of pain still ring in my ears. I screamed.
It's known as female genital mutilation, a practice that's prevalent in many countries. There are laws against it, but that's not enough to resolve what's become a complex global issue.
Rage is what I continue to feel, as well as incomprehension, with all the progress we have around the world in lots of areas. But why does progress on this stop? Why don't our attitudes change? That's what makes me angry.
It's the focus of growing debate in Africa and Asia, where it's most practiced. But it's also an issue in the West, with tens of thousands of cases among immigrant communities. France is one of many countries where it's banned. Action is also tough here, with more than 100 prosecutions for mutilation carried out on French soil. Legislation also covers cases where girls are sent abroad to states where the cutting of the female external genitalia is still legal. We met a Senegalese-born author who recounts her own experience at the age of 7.
This violence inflicted on the body of a child, I didn't understand it. Nobody warned me it was coming, neither my older sisters nor my older girlfriends, no one. It was totally unjust, pure cruelty, because it was inexplicable. What was I being punished for? The psychological consequences are very, very significant because they last a lifetime. And there are times when it really leads us towards depression. But in our culture, depression does not exist, or did not exist before. So it's just like a brief period when things are not great. But I make the link between all of that and the mutilation. And obviously it has consequences in my personal life, in my sex life, and in my life as a woman. And so for me, the after effects are with me for life.
It's difficult for authorities to know the real extent of sexual mutilation in the West. But here in France, for example, doctors and other professionals are obliged to report any cases, with privacy laws lifted if they do. Someone who understands what campaigners are up against is a singer from Mali, forced to leave his country because of threats over a song he wrote that says sexual mutilation is wrong. Buffing Cool says music can bring about change through young people, but more men must also speak out.
Exciser c'est pas bon. Oh yo yo. Exciser c'est mutiler. Arrêtez de mutiler. Exciser c'est pas bon. Oh yo yo.
I don't like the term, but in the patriarchal society, the man is the head of the family. And even if I want to change that in Mali, for the moment it's a patriarchal society, so it's very important that men get involved to change things, because this battle will not be won in Mali if men don't join the fight. And that goes for the whole world. After all, the battle against mutilation isn't just a women's issue, it also concerns us as men. It's a human rights issue. Everyone's concerned, so it's very important that men get involved.
A few years ago, you went back to Mali to talk about this with people on the street. Let's take a look.
It's useful to keep women loyal.
It would be a disaster to stop it, because women would take too much pleasure.
It's not only because of religion, tradition requires it.
Women must be cut, otherwise they go wild.
In our village, you shouldn't raise this issue if you want to stay safe. It's a very old custom.
To me, it's a purely religious matter.
My religion obliges me. I would do it for all my daughters if it's God's will.
It's estimated genital mutilation affects 1 in every 3 females in Africa. Here in Europe, France alone talks about at least 65,000 cases. Critics say no religion demands female genital cutting, and it's more of a criminal matter than cultural. They say awareness campaigns must be backed up with the enforcement of tough laws.
You can say it and repeat it to families for 30 years not to do it, but if they're not worried the long arm of the law is behind them, they'll do whatever they want. I know that being scared of going to prison and the fear of being punished in court is what results in a lot of families becoming careful and protective of their children. Education plays a fundamental role. Take countries in Africa. When the number of people being educated increases, even in terms of basic reading and writing, we see a fall in the number of daughters repeating the practice carried out by their mothers.
Our daughters will not be mutilated, a message campaigners hope will catch on. It's a difficult fight though, but a recent historic UN vote condemning the practice puts pressure on politicians to do more to stop it.